Hello, I'm Dr. Mystic. We're going through my book, January 6th Fed Surrection by Stephen Andrew Missick. And I want to recommend, if you need information about January 6th, if you're curious, there's the movie by Nick Searcy, which is S-E-A-R-C-Y, Capital Punishment, a must-see about January 6th. And then Julie Christie, she wrote a book entitled January 6th, How Democrats have used the Capitol protest to launch a war on terror against the political right, that's why they had January 6th, or the rioting or whatever went on there, as an FBI operation, because they want to go after the Trump movement and crush it and demonize it and castigate Trump supporters as unpatriotic, as insurgents, as dangerous. They want to create this narrative to use the political power of the federal agencies and bureaucracy to push their political agenda and influence the elections. So I was at January 6th. I was there all day long. We couldn't have conceived or imagined, people rushing into the Capitol building like that. I mean, it's just hard to even fathom such a thing. I remember when I was leaving, I was going to the event, and I was leaving in the morning from this hotel I stayed at the night before. And I was listening to other Trump supporters, and they're talking about how they feared that Antifa and BLM were going to dress as Trump supporters, which they were. But the idea was that they would attack us. They're dressed up as Trump supporters, they infiltrate, and then that it is hard to conceive or imagine the idea of Trump supporters breaking into the Capitol and engaging in hooliganism, things like that. And as I said before, the Democrats, they had their riots 2020 from coast to coast over George Floyd or whatever else was their pretense or excuse for engaging in violence. Of course, it's celebrated and encouraged by CNN, even by the current person sitting in the vice presidency position. Kamala Harris said that she's giving money to bail people out so they go back in the streets and to participate in more violence. And there's a failure. It's not a failure. It's a deliberate strategy not to go after Antifa, but relentlessly going after Trump supporters on January 6th. And these people doing it, they know that this is an FBI operation. I mentioned last video how that one of these people testifying at Congress, an FBI agent, said that they had so many agents that they lost count. They weren't sure how many they had. So we know at this point, based on court filings, based on their own admission, there are many FBI agents, like I said, so many they lost count, who are dressed up as Trump supporters. Not only that, by their own acquiescence, I guess, or failure to answer direct questions, what were these FBI agents and assets, people deputized by the FBI to engage in what? Dressing up as Trump supporters and inciting, encouraging, and participating in violence. So then we need to talk about it. Just like where we are as a country, where they're going to arrest their political opposition. The former president of the United States being arrested and given a mugshot, and they're trying to put him away for centuries. This is where we're at now, and because we chicken out, we contributed to it. But people being crushed by the power of the federal government. It's not the first time this happened. We had the Tea Party and this huge movement. How did they kill it? Lois Lerner and the IRS. Let's audit these people. Let's crush them and use the full power of the federal government to crush our political adversaries through the IRS. And now it's through the FBI. And what happened at Tea Party movement? Well, the government broke its back. The deep federal Marxist state broke its back, and now they're trying to do the same thing to the Trump movement. It looks like they're going to fail this time. So I remember, I'm going to look at a few statements in this book. I remember when I was a young man, or just a kid really, graduated from high school, and or immediately thereafter, the Soviet Union collapsed. And it seemed to be, there's the end of communism. And now we're going to have a new age of freedom and democracy and constitutional republics around the whole world. We're going to freedom, no more oppression, no more communism. Communism had failed. We have a new, brighter future of republican systems of government, freedom and human rights, and a free market of opportunity, free market creating opportunities for everyone to financially succeed and thrive, a hopeful future. And what happened since then? 10 years later, we had the rise of Islamic extremism and a war which waged on for 20 years. And then, the communists have taken over the United States. Now the United States is on the verge of collapse. That's what people around the world, they look at us and they see it. I guess in a way, Biden's a good example or characterization of where America is now. Confused, feeble, falling down, incoherent, lost. We've lost our way. And the thing is, it's like everywhere communism fails, or everywhere communism attempts, it fails. And that's why the FBI is doing this. We're on the verge of a police state. Just in the past month, there were two. The FBI went into people's residences and did summary executions. There's a 75-year-old man, some old codger, some crazy coot. He's making some inappropriate statements, but they decided to go in there and murder him, and the FBI did that. And then just like a week or so later, we're not even clear what happened. As a young man, as a soldier, disabled soldier, suffering from PTSD, FBI is raiding his house. His mother comes out and is like, "What's going on?" "Shut up! Mind your own business." And they went and they killed him too. I think they're trying to send a message. They're trying to send a message that's just, we will, and it's like, especially if we win this election, we want you to live in fear of us. These are messages. We're coming out for conservatism. So Dinesh D'Souza has a new movie coming out called Police State. And I guess he had Rasmussen, or that polling agency. I guess he sponsored a poll and said, well, let's do a national poll of what America thinks. Is America becoming a police state? I think 75% of the country believes that America is becoming a police state. And that means that if America's 50-50, that means half the Democrats think we're becoming a police state. But they think that Trump's going to make a police state, which is absurd. But that's what they think. Well, let's look at the issue with the FBI. The politicized Democrat, far-left, Marxist, Christopher Wray's FBI. What does the American people think about it? 50% of the people now have a very low opinion of the FBI, see it as a threat. And I guess it's by party lines now. So almost all Republicans hate the FBI at this point. And we're polarized as a country. So the Democrats, it's a Democrat organization. And the Democrats gone full-on Marxist. It's a Communist Party. Communist Party of America is a Democrat Party. And they like these heavy-handed tactics. That's the America of the future, where the full might of the power of the federal government is going to go into crushing opposition. If you don't think the right way, if you don't speak the right way, you can expect an FBI agent to kick down your door, perhaps kill you, like they killed these two people this past month. That's the Democrats' dream of a new America. The Democrat Party and the Democrat voters, apparently. It's sad that it's coming to that, but I think it is. And of course, you're going to support that as a Marxist, because that's the only way communism can function. Of course, it's an insane system; it always brings decline. But you have to, you can't be free in a communist state. You have to oppress people to enforce communism, because the human nature, the spirit of man yearns to be free, and the communist wants to crush the human spirit. And what it's all about in the end is a new feudalism, where our ruling Marxist elites are the kings living in opulence, while the majority of the people, so you have the richest Marxist, richest 1% of Marxists, and they make sure that we can't have gas stoves, can't drive a car, can't have ceiling fans, can't have air conditioning. Of course, they're going to enjoy all these things. That's the way the Soviet system worked. That's what communism is. Marx is a fraud, and it's about establishing a new monarchy system. Really, it's evil, it's oppressive, it's demonic, it's satanic. I think about these things sometimes, like,
just craziness like this transgender stuff, and it's like, no, this is just satanic. This is a satanic conflict. God versus the devil, good versus evil, and CNN, MSNBC, the Democrat Party, they stand with Satan. So we should be very concerned about our country. And like I said, they've intimidated people and frightened people from speaking up. And we should have had the courage to do it, to stand up. And it's time to speak out. Like I said, when they're arresting their opposition on trumped up, absurd charges, and they did it here in Texas against Ken Paxton. Oh, and I got this text message. Oh, here's the dirt on Ken Paxton. I read it. This is all frivolous nonsense. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now you're impeaching him over this? It's absurd. So as I said, I didn't see any violence. We had these ideas to create a narrative that Republicans and Trump supporters are dangerous. So Trump is going to win, and I was at January 6th. It's like, what I'm here for is I want to voice our concerns. It's very doubtful Trump will be installed as president. This steal is, stop the steal, expose the fraud. The fact of the matter is, the steal is going to happen, sadly. But at least we can stand here, stand for our Constitution, stand for and speak out for free and clean elections, and say we're not going away. We're going to insist that we're going to reform the system. We're going to instill integrity and trust in our voting procedures. Again, that's what. But they didn't want our concerns to be aired because these people don't believe in freedom. They don't believe in our Constitution. They believe in, and funny things about these elites. Just think about this. Trump is uncouth. He's not a classy person. He didn't go to the right schools. He can't be president. He's not sophisticated, intelligent, and advanced like we are. We can't have somebody like that as president. We have to, we're going to steal the election from him. We're going to install our man in there, Joseph R. Biden Jr. Look at this. It's like, you guys are idiots. You're utter fools. You're incompetent, or you're trying to destroy the country. Trump was a good and successful president, and now look at this bumbling moron. And their ideas are failed ideas. They're absurd. They're ridiculous. So I'm going to read this section, and the next program. I want you to watch the previous program. The next program, I said I was going to do this. I'm going to do this next time. We're going to have video clips showing congressional testimony and pointed questions being asked by Clay Higgins and Ted Cruz and others that reveal, very, very revealing of the corruption of the FBI and the FBI's being implicated in the violence that occurred. I believe it's a total FBI operation. Like I said before, federal agents opened the doors to the Capitol. You can't just walk into the Capitol. They wanted this to happen. It's part of the plan. They had their agents there. One of the questions were there FBI agents dressed up as Trump supporters already in the Capitol, in position, before the doors were even open to let the protesters in? They refused to answer because there were. And obviously the congressmen know that there were, and the FBI also knows there were. They can't deny it. What were they doing? Who were these people? How did they get in there? They must have gotten dressed in there. They went in there, I guess, in their suits, their earpieces, and they put their Trump disguises on, and then they opened the gates. It's horrible what they've done to our country. And look at where we're at now. Hyperinflation. Gas prices could go up into, price of a barrel of oil could go up to $150. Gas prices are already, around here right now, it's high. $3.40 for this area around Texas. It's very high. And it's hard to fill a tank of gas. Electricity prices, fuel prices, crime, the open border. They're destroying this country, either through design or incompetence or both. And Republicans are too passive. I haven't been too passive. I've always been speaking up about these issues. But, I mean, how many people have taken a stand with me? Very few. And, of course, I'm being shadow banned, so my voice can't go out as far as it used to. The FBI and their January 6th operation. I'm going to have collaborating video in the next program in this series. President Trump requested the FBI, me speak, the FBI and the January 6th operation. The FBI isn't controlled by Republican administrations. They have a Democrat, left-wing Marxist agenda, and that's what they follow. So, let me read this again. President Trump requested the National Guard to be activated for January 6th. Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell refused. Got some typo here. They refused the National Guard. That's probably the reason why I'm reading this. They should have been there at least for crowd control. Why? The pretense was optics. Optics. It's like, what are you talking about, optics? What does that mean? Oh, we don't want the optics of the National Guard being there. Okay, what does that mean? Why don't you explain to me the optics of the National Guard being around the Capitol? Why is that negative? Why don't you explain to me, Nancy, what you didn't want them there for optics? What kind of optics are you talking about? Why don't you clarify what that means, that you refuse to have the National Guard there providing security because of optics? Well, we don't want the perception of what? They wanted an incident. They didn't want security there so the incident could happen. They needed there to not to be any FBI not to be any National Guard there so the FBI could carry out their Fed surrection operation. I want to mention that I spoke to a man at the Conroe Trump rally who had gone to the pre-January 6 Million MAGA March on November 14, 2020. He said there are hundreds of security guards, officers that day, including visible crowds of government snipers on the tops of buildings. So he went to Million MAGA March a few weeks, I guess a couple weeks after January 6th. They had the Million MAGA March. I remember hearing about it. So he went to this thing. So he's going down the Capitol. I guess he's marching the Capitol from the White House or something like that. Same thing, but it's in a much smaller scale. I mean, there's still a lot of people there. And he's looking around all the tops of the building. There's crowds. There's hundreds, if not thousands, on the tops of all the buildings. Of security officers, snipers, visible. You could see them all. So they weren't concerned about the optics for this Million MAGA March. But all of a sudden, January 6th, they're concerned about the optics. They don't want security there because of the optics. Nancy Pelosi needs to be brought under oath. And we need to have a real January 6th commission that has serious, because all they had on there, they had two Republicans, Liz Cheney and this Ratzenberger, both Democrats. The Republicans in name only. I mean, the Cheneys are beside themselves with hostility towards Trump. I remember they had this movie called Vice where the Batman actor, Christian Bale, played, it's kind of an amazing transformation. He played Dick Cheney. Now they love him. So they made this movie. It's Dick Cheney's bad, but now that he stood up with the left, he stood up against our Constitution, against Donald Trump, against the ideals and the principles of the Republican Party. Now they love them. Some Cheney. They love the Cheneys now. But the Cheneys have always been part of the deep state uniparty. And that's this is the other thing, that Trump represents a real Republican Party, getting away from all the Bushes, the Romneys, the McCains, and moving to a new Republican Party that's true to the principles of conservatism and republicanism. They can't have that. They can't have it's supposed to be controlled opposition. The Republican Party is supposed to be the Washington Generals. They play to lose. So now Trump is stirring things up. He's having a revitalized Republican Party that fights back and fights for our country. And the FBI and the deep state can't have it. So this wasn't about optics. What about the optics? And I'll probably say this here in a minute. If the optics are about, we don't want, the National Guard outside our Capitol. After the FBI Fed surrection operation, they had thousands of National Guard, and then they put, a fence around it and concertina wire and barbed wire. And what about the optics of that? I thought you're concerned about optics. And then they're leaving our soldiers out in the ice and snow, sleeping in the parking lots. No risk. I know I had that. I'm in the National Guard at the time. I'm talking to soldiers. No restroom facility. No place to get warm. No access to food or drink. Just laying out there in the 20, 30 degrees, having to lay down and sleep in a frozen pavement in a parking lot. That's what they did to our soldiers. And they didn't give a damn about our soldiers. They talk about optics. And I was offended by how they used our National Guard for political purposes. Oh, look, Trump's so bad, we had to mobilize the National Guard. Woo! BS. And what were the National Guard didn't need to be there. It's to create a narrative. Oh, look how bad Trump is. We have to have our soldiers out here protecting. So, 2 weeks ago, you're concerned about optics. Oh, we don't want to. And then, what about the optics of what they were doing with that? And then, making our soldiers suffer through those cruel deprivations. It's sick. Nancy Pelosi is a sick, evil woman. The reason why there's no National Guard is because they needed to have the FBI to execute Operation Fedsurrection. The National Guard was requested by Trump. They should have been there, at the very least, for crowd control. They should have been there for crowd control. There's 1 million people there. We needed security. They didn't want security because they wanted an incident so they could create the narrative. So they could stick the FBI and law enforcement out to crush the Trump movement, to demonize it. Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell refused to have the National Guard present, saying they wanted to avoid optics. They weren't concerned with optics. If they were, they wouldn't have had our National Guardsmen sleeping. It's supposed to be one word. Sleeping in the pavement by the thousands in the freezing weather. I know it was freezing. I was there. When they finally did send the National Guard days later, whose president at the time was to misuse them, exploiting them as political props to buttress the false narrative of insurrection. Oh, there had been an insurrection. We have to have our capital fortified. It's an outrage. General Milley is retiring. I kind of wonder what's going on that he would retire at this time. Maybe he sees the writing on the wall that maybe the cracks are starting to form. Very odd, but Trump said, this man's a traitor to the Constitution. In days gone by, he would be arrested and tried for sedition and treason and executed. The people are all outraged. It's like, well, that's true. I mean, if you call our foreign adversary and say, hey, look, if there's a conflict, I'm gonna betray I'm ready to betray our military forces to you. I'll give you a strategic advantage. I'll tell you where we're attacking, or how we're attacking, where we're attacking from. So don't worry. If there's a military attack, I will engage in espionage and treason against my own country for you, Chinese Communist Party, to show you my loyalty. I'll betray my country. He said that. And then, according to Woodward, when at the end of Trump's administration, Milley, according to Woodward, said, I'm the commander-in-chief now. I'm the commander-in-chief. Don't listen to President Trump. Listen to me. I'll tell you what to do. If he gives you orders to do this or that, it comes through me. I'm now in the position of commander-in-chief. So, what do you call that? That's what he did, according to Woodward. He needs to be court-martialed. I mean, is that true? Did he really do that? I mean, we're going to have somebody who states that he's going to give the military initiative to our enemy during the occasion of attack, kill our fighting men and women, and then he usurps the role of commander-in-chief. I mean, we can't have, that's a bad precedent. We can't have a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff doing that. And then the other thing that troubles me is, you got the Navy and the Air Force, and everybody's there, and all these generals and admirals said, yes, sir. They need to be brought up too. Who were they? Why did they do that? Isn't that a coup? This is an outrage where we're at as a country. The presidents of the National Guard on January 6, 2021 would have impeded Operation Fedsurrection. What about the optics, the walls and barbed wire that they put around our Capitol on January 6th? I thought walls didn't work. Why are they putting walls around the Capitol? Walls don't work, right? Democrats don't like walls unless it's around their gated community. They actually put a wall around our Capitol. Oh, really? I mean, you'd rather have 100,000 kids die of fentanyl every year than have border security. I mean, I guess our lives are cheap and expendable to you rich kleptocrats and Marxists in the deep state. How many women and girls are sex trafficked at our border? Oh, we can't have border security, but then they put this wall around our capital. When only one person was killed on January 6th. There's arguments that actually perhaps 2 or 3 other Trump supporters were killed. But on January 6th, there's one person shot through the neck who was an unarmed Air Force veteran. Like I said, if that isn't bad enough, what are the optics of leaving our National Guardsmen out in the cold, sleeping on the pavement without proper restroom facilities, without access to warmth or food or water? That's what happened. They didn't want the optics of our capital surrounded by fencing and soldiers in order to advance their narrative. By not having them there, when they should have been there to provide security, and then using them for props to misuse them in order to create a false perception and narrative of insurrection. This was politicizing, exploiting, and misusing our National Guard. On top of that, they were being exploited, suffering in the inclement weather without facilities. Optics is what this is all really about, right? They wanted the optics of insurrection. They wanted the optics of the soldiers putting being around the Capitol on the proper time, right? I want to mention the 2 dry runs that occurred before January 6th the FBI and the federal government ran. That would be the Unite the Right Charlottesville and the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping hoax. With Charlottesville, there was a demonstration regarding the removal of historical monuments. Democrat mayor, he failed to provide security out of the hope there would be violence. There was, sadly, and somebody died. I mean, I get all these Antifa people. I'm sorry, I don't want anybody to die. I don't. We should cherish human life. And then when somebody does die, it's a terrible thing. Even if it's a bad person, or somebody doing something foolish or wrong. You don't want to celebrate death. I mean, if somebody's trying to kill somebody and they're, or if somebody's brought to justice, even if somebody's brought to justice, so you're satisfied that justice was done on this evil person. But you never gloat or laugh or celebrate somebody's death. We're all going to die. And should be treated with great respect. But these Democrats, they hold human life cheap. They don't care how many people die as long as they achieve their political goals, their agenda. So one of the things that these Antifa and BLM people do, I don't understand, is they attack cars. And there's a story of a pregnant woman. She's in her car and she's just driving along. All of a sudden, BLM and Antifa are, having a riot, and then they jump on her car and they're bouncing, jumping up and down on it. And I think thank God she got out of there. But what would happen is she should have just floored it to get out. But some of these crazy people could have died. But her responsibility, the mother as a mother, is to protect the life and the safety and welfare of her child. So you get an Antifa maniac that throws himself on top of a car, under a car, and gets ran over. I wish they would tell these people, it's like, don't attack or run in front of a car. But they do it, and then this person apparently did it and got ran over. And it's unfortunate. And I really wish they should, what they need to do is to prosecute these Antifa and BLM people. So they wouldn't, if they realize if they attack somebody, if they burn a building down, if they attack a car, if the law is enforced upon them, it might discourage somebody. It's like, hey, you try to do this, you might go to jail for a long time. But the FBI doesn't want these people to stop. They want these actions to happen. So somebody got hit with a car, I think, and died at Charlottesville. And the Democrats started talking about it all the time. Charlottesville's like, what are you talking about? I never heard of Charlottesville. Unite the Right, you're not the right. It's like, what is Unite the Right? Oh, all you Republicans, you're responsible. You killed somebody at Charlottesville. It's all your fault. Unite the Right, Unite the Right, Unite the Right. It's like, I don't know what Unite the Right is. I don't know what Charlottesville is. I don't feel comfortable about removing statues as a historian. It's important for us to remember and learn from our history, right and wrong, good, bad, and ugly. It's important. I mean, where it's going to end, this is bad precedent. But Charlottesville. Unite the Right. They allowed, the mayor allowed that violence to happen, and he wanted somebody to die, and then they started, they had their narrative, they run with it. That's what they do. This enabled them to say that it was a deadly riot carried out, and they associate it with racism because it's a Civil War monument. Therefore, I've read a lot about the Civil War, and it's a very important part of our nation's history, and people should be aware of it. Things are a lot more complicated. Of course, slavery is wrong and had to be destroyed. But, I mean, you have these generals on both sides. It's just a lot of people died. 800,000 changed our nation forever, had a lot of ramifications, and we need to remember it. And if you just whitewash it, just bulldoze all memories of the past, I mean, how are we going to learn from our mistakes and errors if you have no, if they just erase it? And then these people that are rioting, they don't know anything about it. So just a bunch of ignorant people. It's like, why don't you learn, read a book about it? What do you know about the Civil War? You're going to tear all these monuments and statues down. You don't know a damn thing about the Civil War. You don't even know what you're protesting for. Just somebody puts in your mind it's all about racism. Of course, racism is bad. Slavery is an awful thing. I wish it never happened. But this Civil War period is a very important issue that we need to learn from. And tearing down monuments and erasing it all, whitewashing history is not a way to do it. Okay, so Democrats have their narrative. They try to associate all conservatives with racism and violence in Charlottesville. And Unite the Right, Charlottesville. I've never been to Charlottesville. I haven't heard of the place before. And I don't know what Unite the Right is. But they're trying to make impute the responsibility of that onto all Republicans. Probably it's another thing they planned out. So they're blaming us for this, even despite the fact that most Republicans had no idea what Unite the Right was. In Michigan, the public is beginning to resist the draconian COVID restrictions of Governor Whitmer. These were restrictions that neither she nor her family were observing. In fact, she and her husband were openly flouting them. It's like, you had to lock in your house, throw away the key, you can't go outside, and they're boating and partying, and they're just with impunity going around, flouting all the COVID restrictions, living high in the hog. Everybody is locked in their house and had to wear a mask, and had to close down your business, couldn't go to church. They're out jet skiing, and it's rules for thee, but not for me. It's typical Democrat. Remember, during the height of the COVID hysteria, Obama put this big, gigantic tent up for his birthday party, his birthday bash. Invited all these rock stars and actors and celebrities, and they're out there down. Nobody had masks on except for the servers, right? They weren't. Obama didn't have to be wearing a mask, or none of the stars or rock stars or singers or celebrities did either. The Democrats needed COVID for a pretense for all their mail-in ballots and drop boxes. So when people started resisting this too early, before the election, it was a danger to their agenda, right? It's like, we need the COVID restrictions to stuff the ballots, especially in Michigan. It's a swing state. We've got to crush the conservative movement here, and we've got to crush opposition to Whitmer and opposition to the COVID restrictions. So the FBI needed to end the protests, protect Whitmer, and neutralize the threat of patriotic citizens organizing. So they organized, funded, planned, and participated in a phony kidnapping of the governor's scheme. Most participants in the hoax were FBI agents, but they were able to dupe some dopes, right? Over half of the people involved in the scheme were FBI agents. The rest of them were people who got duped into this by the FBI. So they created this narrative that conservative Republicans are dangerous, violent, domestic extremists. So what we're seeing is they had their narrative created from Unite the Right. And once again, you had an incident, you had a protest. The Democrats in control wanted an incident. They wanted a violent incident. They wanted a deadly incident. So they failed to provide security. There's no security. Something happened the way they wanted to. They had that narrative. That was dry run number 2. Dry run number 1 is Charlottesville. Dry run for January 6th, number 2 was the Gretchen Whitmer hoax. We're gonna do a fake. We're gonna get some fake. A whole bunch of FBI agents posing as conservatives. We'll get some dumb people. I don't know these people. Maybe they were good people and got sucked into it. I don't know. But unfortunately, they were duped into. I think a lot of them didn't want to do it and try to back out. And the FBI, no. The FBI provided money, everything, coerced these people to do this thing. And some of these people, like homeless people living in basements and stuff like that. But it didn't matter who these people were. They wanted, these are conservatives, these are Trump supporters, and they tried to kidnap even though the whole scheme was hatched by the FBI. And I think all the victims of this FBI operation have been released and found innocent at this time. But dry run 1, Charlottesville. dry run to the Charlottesville, let me have the Governor Whitmer plot. And then finally, based on these two previous exercises, they do the January 6th Fed surrection. And what I'm going to look at in the next program is evidence. This is exactly what happened. Evidence is coming out. Even more evidence is coming out in the future. That's why we need to talk about this. We need to be ahead of it when this wave is occurring. We need to stand in front of it, and we should have been there already, because I believe that the FBI's involvement in January 6th is going to be totally exposed. And of course, Trump, they steal the election from Trump. They crush all questioning. For 2 years, you couldn't say a word on social media about election fraud. Now you can say it because they think, well, it's safe to, because it's too late. Biden's in there, and they're going to let him finish his term at this point. Even if they prove that without a doubt there is voter fraud, we've already done that. We already know that Biden stole the election. So as we go in to the future, when Trump's back in office, and the Biden, definitely it's going to happen. Trump's going to have some inquiries and some investigations. It's all going to be exposed. But even if that doesn't happen, of course, our country's not going to survive another 4 years of any Democrat. We're dying. Our nation's dying. It's collapsing. It's going to fracture. There won't be a United States of America as we know it. It's going to collapse. It's not going to be a free country anymore. Once you have a Marxist police state, you always have poverty and decline. America's not going to be a superpower anymore. And unless we get a Republican there, we can turn things around. But it doesn't matter. Whatever happens, eventually, the historical record will bear to the fact. In the end, it's going to be proven that Joseph R. Biden Jr. was not legitimately elected as a president of the United States, that there was voter fraud that determined the outcome of the election, that it was known, and that corrupt forces installed him as president and prevented the legitimate winner of the election, the constitutional system, from taking office. It's all going to come out. Not while Biden's in office, but people know it now, right? Now they're trying to punish you for speaking the truth. But we have to speak the truth anyway. As Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So I have my book, January 6th Fed Surrection. We continue on this. The next program, we're going to have clips that show a lot of congressional testimony and some other videos that show, without a doubt, that the January 6th insurrection was the Fed surrection, was an FBI plot, and other federal agencies. We're going to expose that, and then we're going to look at the ramifications. Where do we go from here? In the next episode, we're going to look at the evidence for the FBI operation and the so-called January 6th operation, or insurrection, which was an FBI operation. And the thing about the FBI now, as I mentioned earlier, the poll, where 50% of the people in this country don't trust the FBI. They see it as politicized. They see it as not a straight player. They see it as an organization with a political agenda against the right, and they're going to help the left and crush the right. So it's lost the public's trust. We have to get rid of the FBI. They destroyed their reputation. And like I said, it seems like pretty much all the Republicans hate the FBI now and don't trust them. And the Democrat Party likes what the FBI is doing. They want to see, that's their vision of the future of America as a totalitarian police state. And, Marxism, socialism can't function without people living in fear and without the gulag. That's the only way it can function. So the sad thing about all this is, Christopher Wray, they get these little talking points. It's like, he's being exposed. The organization for its corruption is being exposed by Matt Gaetz. Christopher Wray's like, oh, we got so many Floridians joining the FBI now. Matt Gaetz is like, we're proud of our Floridians, but our young people going in law enforcement, they deserve better than you. And of course they do. But what scares me about it. It just shows the corruption of our youth through our Marxist educational system. Our young people are getting brainwashed. And I think that the scary thing is all these young people going into the FBI probably know full well what the FBI is. That they're going to persecute, harass, intimidate law-abiding citizens on the right. And that's what they want to do. They want to go out and get them. We're going to teach them a lesson for not towing the line and espousing Marxism by thinking independently, by thinking differently, by expressing conservative, traditional points of view. We'll crush them. You have young people all fired up and ready to do that. It's a very scary precedent, and we need to tackle the FBI, show the whole country for what it is, and hold them accountable for what they did on January 6th.
So not only has the FBI, by aligning itself with one political party against half the country and betraying the trust of the American people, by becoming politicized and weaponized against conservatives and traditionalist Americans, you just think about what the FBI is doing to show that this is an institution with rife with corruption and ideologues. Could you imagine some of the things they're doing? Like, I'm not saying it's right. Law enforcement should have gotten involved. So you have a 75-year-old man making threats against Biden. So they just go in there and kill him. It's like, was this man really a threat? Was he gonna? I guess you got to take everything seriously, but shouldn't that be the last option, to go and kill somebody? Could they have done some kind of other type of intervention to kind of diffuse the situation and protect lives? Instead, they have to go out and go in there and have a hit team, assassination squad, and kill this man. And a week later, they do the same thing. Got a disabled vet. They raid his house and just murder him. His mother's like, "Well, what are you doing? What's going on here? What's this about?" Mind your own business. They go in there and proceed to kill him. This is the modern FBI. And some of the things they're doing, it's kind of disturbing. Like, you had a pro-life activist, and I saw the video. He's very, very far from the interest abortion clinic. Why are they targeting him? Because Roe versus Wade was overturned. So we're going to go after pro-life people, And what if they've done to illegally allow people to threaten Supreme Court justices? It's against the law to protest in such a matter, federal law, and yet Merrick Garland, the FBI, are allowing these illegal protests to occur. And then we have the situation, the pro-life father, he's got a pro-life ministry, and what happened, like I said, he was very far from the interest abortion clinic. I guess they have to, it's like, we're going to go after these people, that's the best they could come up with. So some rabid pro-abortion activist tries to attack his son. He says, don't touch my son. And so what do? 4:30 in the morning or so, they break into his house with guns and point guns at him in front of his children. He's got like 5 kids, little girls and boys, watching and their daddy get dragged away for something that had already been adjudicated in the courts, and he was found not guilty. And the thing is, it's like that they're able to carry out these operations shows that something is wrong. And that's the scary thing about young people. They go to college, they get brainwashed into Marxism, and then they want to crush the opposition. They want to be part of the marching squad of the Marxist totalitarian police state revolution. They want to be the jackbooted thugs with their foot on the neck of freedom-loving, constitutional-loving Americans. And that's why it's scary that there's so many young people that have been brainwashed and going to the FBI, and that they could carry out these operations. And you'd think that if these people went into law enforcement, they think, is this what I joined law enforcement? Is this right? Should we be doing this? Is this our prerogative, or what we're supposed to be doing? Going in there and killing people in their homes, pointing guns at peaceful, dissenting voices, exercising their constitutional liberties. And I guess that just shows how thoroughly corrupt the FBI is, that all these people in there have no problem with trampling on our Constitution and pursuing, and punishing voices of dissent, patriotic Americans who love our country and our Constitution. So it's very troubling, and this organization, the FBI, has to be disbanded. And also, I mean, not only that, I think that from the top down, I mean, there's top down corruption. People say, well, is the FBI rotten at the core, or is it rotten to the core? It's obviously rotten through and through to the core. So we need to have top down prosecutions from Christopher Wray to the lowest level worker in a field office. They need to be, and when we do these prosecutions, we need to make sure that a lot of these people die in prison and spend decades in jail for trying to destroy our constitutional system, for violating our rights, for seditious, treasonous conspiracy. That's what the FBI is, especially if they're involved in January 6th. The organization has to be totally disbanded, and we need to have as many prosecutions as we get. And I mean, it's so corrupt at this point. If you're a member of the FBI, you can assume that you're a Marxist criminal thug, because that's what the FBI is now. And like I said, you have half the country looks at the FBI, holds it in disdain for what it's become, actually what it's always been. These people didn't understand until now what this thing is. But then, like I said, with the Democrat Party now as a Marxist totalitarian party, a lot of Democrats, they understand that to have a Marxist state, it has to be a totalitarian police state. That's how socialism, communism functions. People have to live in fear. It's necessary to implement this messed up, evil political system. It's necessary for to have secret police kicking down doors and carrying off people and doing summary executions. That's what Marxism is. That's what it's all about. That's the only way it can function. Because, like I said, the heart of man that yearns to be free, and you have these elitists who want to hold people in bondage. That's how you do it. You have to have an organization like the Stasi, the Gestapo, or in the modern form we know it as the FBI. That's the only way that a Marxist, totalitarian, socialist, communist police state can function. So we need to hold these people accountable. It's our country. They're obligated to observe and follow the Constitution. And since they violated their oath of office, these people need to be all prosecuted to the full extent of the law, from the director of the FBI to the lowest level person in a field office. And all these field offices can be closed. And maybe we just need maybe we need to have more states' rights and have states take care of law enforcement themselves. I mean, if the federal government's going to do this, maybe they can't be trusted with this power. We do have law enforcement agencies. Maybe we got all we need. We don't need the FBI, especially if this is what they're going to do. We definitely don't need this. So at the very least, we need reform. So I think it's important that however we have that reform, if they create another organization that functions in the same role the FBI does, it has to be a totally new organization. We shouldn't have anybody in the new organization that has any connection with the corrupt, totalitarian, evil, politicized and weaponized against the American people FBI. So we have to abolish it and start anew to restore freedom in America and restore trust in our government, because they've caused the American people to lose it.
So thank you, and God bless you.